And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Alcyone, we have the South Korean Zerg player representing KZ Gaming, the last remaining Zerg player, the last non-Terran in the tournament. It is Dark. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the French Terran player representing Team Liquid. It is Clem. Clem, he took down a classic, he took down the last Protoss to make it this far. Will he take down the last Zerg as well? I'm ready for it, as, ooh, Clem is going to be going for a low ground wall. We do have a low ground, what seems to be a 2 racks opener. We'll see, we'll keep our eye on Clem to see what he does end up committing to. Meanwhile, back at home, Dark going for a hatch gas pool opener. I imagine it will be gas pool from our Zerg. And this map is an interesting one, as yes, it is going to be a 2 racks opener. It's been a while. Been a while since we've been able to cast this. We weren't able to cover Beyond versus Solar earlier, so we missed out on the 2 racks openers, but it's great to see it here from Clem. Again, Dark is very well versed against defending against this, so he shouldn't have too much issues. Overlord is making its way across the map and will come across these 2 racks. Again, this is for initial Reapers, this is for map control, this is designed to contain Dark to 2 bases for as long as possible. Meanwhile, this map is an interesting one. So there is an entire portion of the map, an entire third of the map that is inaccessible unless you mine through these minerals. Mineral patches here, minerals over in the center as well, or knock down these rocks, of course. Either the minerals or the rocks, and then you gain access to this entire section, to all these bases. Very Golden Wall-esque. For those of you that were around in 2020 era of StarCraft, I can't remember when Golden Wall was active, but it's been a while, and yeah, very similar to Golden Wall in that respect. Very similar. Has been a while. As the Overlord does get across the map, does confirm the 2 racks opener of his opponent, and Dark should be getting ready back at home. Bold move here. Dark is setting up for his expansion. Now, if Clem realizes what's going on, this is typically a 3 Reaper opener, but if he does confirm that 3rd base, he can commit to more Reapers, as he is going to be dancing with the army. Clem going to be checking the triangular 3rd, going to be diving into the main, and Dark is sneaking out with that 3rd base. And because Clem doesn't see it, he is already working on his transition. He is not making additional Reapers, so he will not be able to punish the 3rd base of Dark. Dark being greedy here, and he's getting away with it. As 1 drone goes down, and Clem finally gets eyes on the 3rd base, but he loses the Reaper in the process, and he cannot stop this. So, for those wondering how this works, if Clem had seen this sooner, with his 1st Reaper, then he would have made a 4th and 5th Reaper, and he would have started DPSing this down as soon as possible, and he should have cancelled the 3rd. Alas, he didn't. So, honestly, Dark is looking pretty good right now. Link speed is about to finish up. Lings are getting across the map, and they may be able to punish some of this production. No, they're trying to surround the Reapers even. Yeah, the Reapers are going to be hunted down, or will they? They're trying barely to escape, but yeah, they will fall one after the other. Good cleanup from Dark. Solid timing of the 3rd base. He's joining up quite happily here. And after the early game, I would say that Dark is looking quite solid at the moment. The Lings are going to be able to threaten some of these add-ons, but we do have Cyclones on the way. And Clem should be okay here on 2 bases. Behind this, it is going to be a 2-1 into a 3rd CC, so 3rd CC before starport. But this is an interesting variation. So typically, this is to go into 4 Hellions and then get into a starport. But in the new patch, I guess we can go 2 Hellion, 2 Cyclone. Makes sense. Behind this, Dark is indeed going to go Roaches. Again, Dark is very fond of his Roach openers, especially against Terran. And in current patch, that isn't going to be changing. We saw Banelings against Gumiho, but that is in the mid to late game. That's also what we saw from Serral. It's one of those things where what seems to be the case in current meta in the new patch is that it isn't safe to go Ling Bane early on, and you do need Roach Ravager in the mid game to survive to get into the late game, where then you can start incorporating Banelings. That seems to be the case, but we'll see. It's still very early on, and I'm sure we'll be casting many more ZVTs in the coming days and the coming weeks and the coming months to really get a feel for where the meta settles amongst these top players. Meanwhile, Dark already has quite a number of roaches on the way. No lair, by the way, either. This is looking very committed out of Dark. Yeah, Dark, he's not droning, he's going all in. Lings are moving out, roaches as well. Ravagers are being morphed in, and we'll see if Dark can pull this off. Cyclones are being active on the map. The Lings do they do come in for a surround. They catch the Hellions. They will catch the Cyclones as well. A big loss here for Clem as he loses everything out of the map. And now Dark is looking to break the third base. Not just the third. I'm sure Dark wants to break into the natural as well. He has a Biles. He can threaten the add-ons. He can threaten the wall itself. Tank is going to be able to siege up. Interesting. Dark, instead of going for the depot, was focusing down the starport instead. Does get the depot. Forces a lift up of the starport. Lings are getting ready. Dark is not droning, by the way. He's still not focusing on his economy. He's diving on forward. He's going to be able to bow down the tank. Only Marines remain. But where are the Lings to support? Clem, he gets on top of some of these Ravagers. Lings finally do come in. And Dark can keep this going, but he's down to only 4 Ravagers. The final tank will be biled down. Oh, medevac as well. Boys have to be pulled, but we're running out of Lings. We're running out. Oof. As another tank joins the fray. And it looks like Clem, he's holding. We're down to 2 Ravagers. We can get on top of the final tank. Once again, the tank goes down. More SCVs are falling. Dark microing his heart out with these 2 remaining Ravagers. Miss rally with the Overlords. They shouldn't be here. Get out of here. And finally, Dark is droning. Finally, Dark decides to back off. He has recognized that he cannot kill his opponent. He cannot end the game. Lings, they ignore the army. They go straight for the main base. He catches a tank. Good pick off here from Dark. 13 of 14 SCVs go down in the main base. The Ravagers push into the mineral line as well. And Clem is being pulled apart left and right. Losing far too many SCVs. Even forced to fight here in the main. And now Clem has to go for this counterattack. What else can he do? The Bile connects. Back at home, Dark, he's fully saturated on 3 bases. He's working on 1-1. He has a lair. Working on roach speed. And safety roaches are coming out. Dark should be able to deflect any kind of move out. And Clem, he's got some catching up to do here. He's resaturating his third. At least he kept his third orbital alive. At least that. He's going to be able to rotate his SCVs over. Get back into tank production. Again, because his tank count is low, because his medevac count is low as well, Clem actually can't really be too active. He can go for some drop play, yes, but he doesn't have enough for like a committed push. So Dark has quite a bit of breathing room. There's quite a bit of breathing room available. Clem is stimming on forward, cleaning up a lot of this creep. It's a lot of Marine. Getting into his second factory. Clem is stabilizing here on 3 bases. So getting back into this. But Dark is about to max. He's about to max out on Roach Ravager. And once again, Dark is looking to deny the third. This time I don't think he needs to push into the natural, but denying the third is more than enough. As he may even push into the natural base instead. How many tanks do we have? We have 3 tanks, 2 of them here at the third base, 1 in the natural. They're well situated behind the army. Oh, can Dark break this? He's gonna try. He is going to try. He's trying to get on top of the tanks as well. Wiles force back the Bio army. The tank's getting a lot of volleys off. Yeah, with those tank volleys, it looks like Clem is going to be able to hold on. He cleans up the Roach Ravager. This was not the fight for Dark. He kills one tank. Oof. And he will lose everything for it. Again, the defensive position for Clem was just too good. He had the high ground, he had the positioning. And just like that, Dark, he was once up, what, almost 80 supply? Like 70, 80 supply. And that has all gone down the gutter. And honestly, any advantage that Dark had isn't really there anymore. He has map control, I guess. He's working on 2-2. Does he have an infestation bit? He doesn't. No infestation bit, no infestors, no fungals. Oh. Meanwhile, Clem can start thinking about a fourth. And even a fifth. 4th TC is on the way. 2-2's about to kick in. That's going to be a big timing here for Clem. He has 2-2 and his opponent doesn't. Yeah, now that he deflected the first push, now the tanks can be used offensively, and that's a lot of tanks. 7 tanks for Clem. I believe he's keeping some back at home. Yes, there are some back at home, but most of them are moving out. Here we go. Dark is going to try to engage into this army. Big piles. The tanks are stacked. The tanks are stacked one on top of the other, but the Marine army sims on forward, takes down the Roaches, takes down the Ravagers as well. And Dark is in a lot of trouble. And he lost all of his momentum. And the army pushes on forward into the 4th base. And without Fungals, without Banelings, there's nothing to stop this Marine army. Dark trying to come in from behind. He will get on top of some of these tanks. But it's not going to be enough. Clem just has too much. He's rallying everything across the map. 1 tank survives. And even without the tanks, the Marines, they're more than enough to just break his opponents and push into the natural. GG gets called. Clem will take game number 1. GG. GG, well played. Dark initially had some success with his push, with his Roach Ravager push. Getting a lot of SCVs, getting a lot of tanks as well. His transition into a 3-base economy with a 4th base. That was all good. That was all good from Dark. But his 1-1 push with a maxed out army at the 3rd base, that was not it. Something that we have learned over the past couple of days is that a lot of these maps, Alcyone included, are very defensible. You know, they have some really good tank positions, really good high ground to take advantage of, really good choke points, and pushing up into these bases can be a very difficult thing to do. Dark learns that the hard way here, as he just ran into a brick wall and he couldn't break him. Dark got broken instead. GG. GG, well played. With that, Clem takes a lead in this series, and he is 1 game away from advancing on to the grand finals. Yeah, WW. Oh, we've been here before. We are getting ready for our next game. Our next game is going to be taking place on Oceanborn. Oh boy. Oceanborn. This is where the ace match of Dark versus Gumiho was held. If you remember, winding it back, I highly recommend checking out the VOD. Dark versus Gumiho was insane. It was very back and forth. Gumiho was winning on Oceanborn. He was just bullying Dark back, denying the 5th base time and time again. I think he either killed or canceled the 5th like 4 or 5 times. But Dark eventually was able to break free, was able to counterattack, force Gumiho out of position and expand and take control of the map from there. But I wonder how the dynamic will change here in this ZVT with Clem. I worry for Dark. I do worry. We saw how much issues he had expanding and taking a 5th base on this map before. I feel like the same is going to occur here. Going to have as much, if not more, issues against his current opponents. But here we go, spawning in the top left-hand corner of Oceanborn. We have the South Korean Zerg player representing KranKy Gaming. It is Dark. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the French Terran player representing Team Liquid, leading the series 1-0. It is Clem. Once again, setting up for a 2 racks opener. Here we go. 2 racks Reaper should be the opener here from Clem. Meanwhile, Dark going to be going for a hatch gas pool, so a very standard opener here from Dark. Meanwhile, when I was talking about the 5th base, on Oceanborn, it's pretty easy to set up on 3 bases with your kind of 3-base setup. The downside is that it's very linear. You don't really have a choice when it comes to what 3rd base you want to take. Same with the 4th base. This 4th base is relatively defensible as well, just because you do have the high ground next to it. You do have this kind of long choke point area to push into it as well. But the 5th base, whether it's this one here in the center or over on the right hand side, the difficulties here lie within the terrain. Because there is high ground right next to that base location, tank sieges from these locations can be brutal. And we saw Dark having a very hard time against Gumiho a couple of hours ago, like an hour or 2 hours ago, on this very map. It was very dynamic, very back and forth. It was an amazing game, to be honest. It was a lot of fun seeing Dark and Gumiho go at it. But for a long time, it seemed a little bit one-sided. It seemed like Gumiho did have a strong edge. We'll see if the game goes that long. We have seen so far this series, Dark has been hyper aggressive. He's been very in the face of Clem, and I wouldn't be surprised if that continues to be the case. Here we go. So we do have a first Reaper making its way across the map. We have 2 more behind this, of course, as well. Now, something that's brutal here is that this time Dark should be contained to 2 bases. I mentioned something just earlier, which is going to come into play right now. The fact that there are no options for your 3rd base. This is the only one, really, and the SCV is patrolling. I mentioned earlier that the goal here of this opener of Clem is to contain your opponent to 2 bases, and Clem failed at doing so in game 1. Remember, Dark was able to sneak out to drone and expand and take a 3rd base. That is not going to happen this time. This time, Clem, he checks just to make sure, making sure that there is no other hidden hatchery being taken. And Clem is successfully containing Dark to 2 bases and getting ahead in that way. As Dark will eventually take a 3rd, but far later than he would like. Ooh, Queens are a little bit out of position, and 1 drone goes down. Good pick off by Clem. Out positioning his opponent back at home. We're getting into our transition. Add-ons are on the way, factory as well. Looks like once again we're seeing an add-on swap. So, and this is an interesting variation. Beyond, for example, or traditionally, this 2 racks opener, you wouldn't add-on swap. You would keep your reactor and your tech lab on these racks to get into faster stim. But here, this time, 2 games in a row now, we're going for an add-on swap. We're going into mech. We have a 2nd factory on the way. 2 racks into mech. That's crazy. And that's why we don't have a tech lab. That's why we don't have stim. Okay. Interesting. Huh. Well, Dark is going into a really early Roach one. It's hidden behind the mineral line. Fast Lair is on the way as well. I'm curious. This is very fast Lair, actually. This could be for a Nidus all-in. This could be for a creep highway across the map instead. Dark being very aggressive here. But he doesn't know what he's up against. He's coming in from behind with an Overseer Scout. He's rushing into an Swarm. What? Okay. This is like a 4-minute 20 infestation pit. That's crazy. Are we getting into fast infestors, or we're going swarm host? I'm a little bit in shock. We're like, we're on 2 bases. This is 2 base infestation. We don't even have a third. Dark, you have my attention. So I'm worried. So Dark is taking a lot. Dark is taking up quite a lot. Little does he know that we're massing cyclones. We're making 3 cyclones. Now he knows. Now he sees 3 cyclones at a time. I'm worried that Clem is going to snowball out of control. There is no ling speed, and the answer to cyclones are lings. Speedlings. Oh boy, without speedlings, these cyclones are going to have their way with this army. Clutch transfuse. But 1 roach goes down. Another transfuse barely keeps the roach alive. There it is. We are rushing into infestors, so this is a 2 base all in out of Dark. A 2 base all in with roaches and infestors. And okay, so even though lings are typically the counter to cyclones, fungals, they can do the job as well. Okay, we're droning. We're getting mixed signals. We are rushing into infestors, but we are also droning a little bit behind this. Third base is still not saturated. Clem technically has a better economy than his opponent. Throwing down 2 more Raxes. Sorry, 2 more factories. Clem is going mass cyclone, by the way. It's just mass cyclone. Oh, okay. And tanks. Okay. Mixing it up. That is cyclone speed that's being researched. I can't remember what it's called. It's called something like hurricane, whatever. There it is. Hurricane thrust. When I said hurricane, it sounded silly, and I second guessed myself. But there we go. Hurricane thrusters. There you go. Why is it called that? It's fine. Regardless. Dark pushing in, getting ready with his army. Slowly saturating his third. Catching back up economically. Taking his 4th base as well. The forward 4th. Bold move out of Dark. And yeah, rushing into this infestation was crazy, but how many infestors do we have? We have 4 infestors. They are burrowed all around the map. Burrows resources as well. We have Tulling Claws on the way. And Darky's just lying in wait here, ready to fungal the army if it ever moves out. Ready to lock it down. Hellions move out on the right-hand side. They have been spotted by Dark. Okay, he does pull back. We are building up more tanks, more blue. We have Blue Flame on the way for the Hellions. And Clem, he is one that plays mech. Like, even prior to this patch. Does whip out mech whenever he can. It's not his go-to. I don't want to give that impression. Not his go-to at all, but you know, once a series. Once a series. The Cyclones do be oh. Seriously, calm down. Aye. They're thrusting. Like a hurricane. Oh boy. Spire's on the way behind us as well, from Dark. Oh, Tunneling Claw Roaches had been revealed. Turret was thrown down ahead of time. Clem working on his own 4th base. Again, things are looking really slow. This is the upside here of Dark playing against mech, is that he is able to expand a little bit more freely because Clem's army is just a little bit slower and immobile. Clem hasn't been active at all, so he's kind of giving Dark map control. Dark is able to spread creep more freely. Be more active with his Roach Ravager. Decent lock-ons here from Clem. Oh, an Infestor goes down. Down to 3 Infestors. Spire's on the way for potentially Mutas. This is another thing that a lot of people have been theorizing. So before, Mutas struggled against this army composition because Cyclones would just completely shut Mutas down. But we're talking about the old Cyclone that had a longer lock-on range. The newer Cyclone struggles a little bit more against Mutas because Mutas, they can break the lock-on and they can micro against them a little bit better. So I wonder what kind of direction we're going in, if this will be for a Muta switch or if we're just setting up for Broodlords down the line. Meanwhile, Blue Flame Hellion run by, slips in and gets quite an amount of workers. Only 2, 3. Clutch Burrow there from Dark. 4 drones go down in total. There it is. The Greater Spire is on the way. So Dark is getting ready for the ultra late game for Broodlord Infestor. Dark is preparing for it. So he takes more bases. Clem just trying to cut the map in half. Decent fungal. Even better Biles. Take down 2 of those tanks, but the Infestor goes down in the process. We are down to 2 Infestors for Dark. As he's just clearing up these rocks, trying to set himself up. Clem going for a run by here and there. Just trying to keep tabs on things, getting an eye on the economic situation here of Dark. But for the most part, we're taking things slow. Like this, fun fact, this entire game, outside of the first push, Clem has been stuck at home. He hasn't been moving out. He's building up more tanks, more Thors. The Cyclones were nice early on, but you can see that they're being phased out over time. Clem scans the main base. He does spot that Broodlords are on the way, so that does show us why we have just pure Thor in production. Broodlords are being morphed in. Are the Thors going to arrive in time, though? That is the question. I think they will. It's going to be close, though. Neural still isn't done, so we don't have the best answer for Thors yet. Hellions going to be keeping Dark busy for the time being. Broodlords advancing forward. Queens spreading a lot of this creep here out on the map. Here we go. Dark looking to lay siege upon this army. The first Thors have arrived. Tank already does go down. The Thors pushing on forward. They're not quite within range. They do take a fungal to the face. But ghosts are arriving as well. Good target firing here out of Clem. Solid transfuse, though, keeping the Broodlords alive. Oh, no. As the Thors are trying to dance... Sorry, the Broodlords are trying to dance with these Thors. Again, they do have better movement speed or faster movement speed than before. Oh, the friendly fire. So we trade a Thor for a Broodlord. Another fungal will connect as well. And 3 Broodlords for 1 Thor so far. 1 Thor? That's alright. More than 1 Thor. As Dark is able to break this location, pushing on forward here up the ramp. The tank line is non-existent. Without the tanks, the Roach Ravager can break through. And it looks like Dark is pushing into the natural base. Clem, he's got a lot of supply that just isn't a part of this fight. Yeah, the tanks are now repositioning, but they're running into Broodlords. Tanks are going to go down for free, essentially. And the Roach Ravagers dealing with the Thors. Again, these ghosts, these Thors, they arrived a little bit too little too late. And it looks like Dark has broken a Clem. One solid push through the center. GG gets called. Dark ties up the series 1-1. We're going to the ace match. Oh, let's go. Really, that's all we wanted out of this series. We wanted all 3 games, regardless of how this goes. Give us game 3. Give us that 3rd game. GG, well played. Again, a very crisp timing. Dark, as soon as he had his 8 Broodlords, he just pushed in immediately. And of course, when he did push in, we were just barely squeezing out those Thors, and we only had 3 of them at the time. And we saw Dark lock them down quite well, you know, with Fungals, with the Roach Ravager. Once the Thors went down, the tanks soon thereafter. And Dark was able to break Clem before Clem was able to get a solid Thor and Ghost number out. He was transitioning into Thor Ghost, but he wasn't quite fully there yet. So yeah, Dark was able to end the game before that could really come into play. And now we have our 3rd game. Here we go. Ooh, on site Delta, the green map. Let's go. There's wondering, didn't get to mention it, but the Broodlord, there has been a change to the Broodlords. The Broodlords are a little bit faster, but the Broodlings, They do less DPS. They are slower as well. Sorry, they last. They don't last as long. That was a change that happened long ago. But they do less DPS overall. So Broodlords, they do less damage, but they are more mobile. So Dark kite with them quite well. And here we go. Spawning in the top left-hand corner of Site Delta, we have the South Korean Zerg player representing KranKy Gaming, tying up the series 1-1 in the last game. It is Dark. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, going for a more standard opener with a wall on the high ground, we have the French Terran player representing Team Liquid. It is Clem. This time we are not going for a 2-racks opener. I just want to wind it back a little bit. And again, that last game was wild. We had a 2-racks Reaper opener into mech. Like, I've never seen that before, and I'm terrified. I'm terrified that like people are gonna try that on the ladder. Like, that's a scary thing. So thankfully for Dark, he happened to already be going towards, you know, roaches anyway, and he was able to defend and able to hold. But yeah, that was wild. Ooh. As Dark is going to be going for a hatch gas pool. Standard economic opener here out of our Zerg player. And again, standard opener out of Clem. But it's important to point that out because so far, every game this series, Clem has been going for the low ground 2-racks. But is switching things up here. And I wonder what else he's going to be switching up. This can, of course, lead into a third TC opener, something a little more economic on Site Delta. We could also see something more aggressive with a straight up 1-1-1. Could see a 2-1-1. Clem has options. Meanwhile, Dark, I'm sure, is going to open Roach. I'm sure that is not going to change. Whether we rush into Roaches or whether we get into Roaches in the mid game. That is something that has been pushed by the patch and something that Dark was already doing to begin with. So I'm sure that's more of what we'll be seeing. As Dark does send his drone out to take a third base. Reaper slips in. The Lings are in position. And we'll see if Clem can get a Ling. He will take down one of those Lings. Not too bad. Pretty good start. But the Queen has arrived. Dark pushes back the Reaper, and Dark takes his third base. Meanwhile, back at home, we do have our factory on the way. So we're not getting into any kind of crazy 2-1-1 opener. Not yet, at least. And, oh, I was not expecting this, but okay, Clem, he did take his gases a little bit faster, and we are going for a 1-1-1. 1 racks into 1 factory into 1 starport. This is a little bit more old school. This is quite aggressive, actually. And, yeah, this is going to put a lot of pressure on Clem to do damage. This is basically, he's delaying his economy here in favor of a faster starport, in favor of, I imagine, Banshees. So a lot more committed out of Clem this game, as he is taking the role of the aggressor. Meanwhile, Dark rushing into a lair. A 3-minute 30 lair timing. My god. A very fast lair. This could be for a Ling Queen Nidus all-in, and I think that's what this is. It's been a while. I haven't seen Dark go for a Ling Queen Nidus all-in a long time, and that does very well against 3cc openers, but against a 1-1-1, I'm not so sure. Banshees are on the way. Cloak as well. The Hellions, they run past the Queens. But Lings are waiting for them. Looking to punish these Hellions. And a good kiting here, it looks like. 1 Hellion goes down. Can we get another? Up, 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 up. We cannot. Good kiting out of Clem. Good control. He keeps all 3 Hellions alive, but he's forced back, and he will not get scouting information. Second gas geyser is taken, and there is that Nidus. It is a Ling Queen Nidus all-in out of Dark. But I worry for him because, again, this does very well against 3cc Banshee. But the 3cc now gets thrown down, and Dark sees that. He should be aware that there is a little bit more out on the map. Good, Banshee's coming in for a bit of a backstab. Spores are being thrown down. Dark is droning. Looks like he has recognized that this isn't going to work as well as he had hoped. He can still commit to the Nidus, but again, Dark making all these workers shows us that he himself doesn't think he can kill his opponent. And he can maybe deny mining here at the natural. Bunker is on the way. Nidus has been scouted. You can see Clem in position in his main, but the Nidus comes out at the natural. Overseer's in position. Queen's getting some damage done here on the Banshees. Takes down one Banshee. And can maybe get a depot, maybe get some SCVs. Again, Darky's just droning behind this. He's just trying to catch back up. Again, this was never Dark's initial plan. Dark was hoping that Clem was being more economic, but because he wasn't, you know, Dark is just trying to make lemonade with these lemons, with this Nidus. Say second Nidus does finish up. The Queen's doing quite a bit of damage here to this wall. And he's just making Clem uncomfortable, containing him to two bases. On top of that, creep is slowly spreading to every single base here of Clem, making it that much harder to expand. Oh, as two Queens go down. Bit of miscontrol there from Dark. Expensive loss. Looks like Dark should finally back off. But again, he's spreading creep in every direction, backwards from the bases of Clem. And back at home, Dark is saturated on three bases. He's getting a fourth, and he's building up a Roach army as he gets the hell out of there, as he does go back home. Dark is trying to deny that third. Trying to spread creep. The Hellions turn back around, and yeah, they will clean up these tumors. God, that was a pretty valuable scan. So many tumors went down. And the Clem will finally be able to regain control of his third. Behind this, Dark is working on a 1-1 timing. Getting his fourth. Hellions are going for a big run by instead, and the Roaches are out of position. Drones are going to be going down. A lot of them actually are lining up. 5, 7 in total. 8 drones go down. Half of the mineral line. Pretty good value here for these Hellions. Again, the Hellions, they've served their purpose. We're getting into a bio army, not mech. So half a mineral line, pretty good trade here for Clem. As he's going to be cleaning up the rest of these tumors. Only one active tumor is left. And it will go down. At the same time, Dark is building up towards this 1-1 push. He's looking to max out here on 72 workers and break this third base. This time the Marine army is out of position. Can he get on top of the tanks? Can he get on top of the Marines? He's trading with the Marine army instead. The Nidus finishes up in the main base. Clem caught completely off guard. He was not expecting this. We're spreading creep in the main. We're taking control of the production. The Marines having a hard time engaging. The Marines are going down, and Dark, he just goes straight from outside the natural into the main base with his entire army. Clem out of position. Bars will be connecting. The tanks have come in, so Dark has to be wary. He does evacuate his queens. Yeah, and he's going to have to get everything else out of here. With 2 Niduses, he does evacuate, and now he can go to the front lines and push in towards that third base. The Marines are not here. These tanks are looking a little bit vulnerable. Dark is working on 2-2. Oh, he comes back in. Ay, ay, ay. The Niduses weren't cleaned up. No. The Niduses were not cleaned up, but tank goes down as Darky bounces back and forth between the bases. Takes down the tank. He's going to be able to take down the final tank here at the third. And without any tanks, yeah, this position is going to be broken. Factory goes down. Boys are being pulled. The Marines, they're going to be able to sit on top of this. Decent trade here for Clem. And Clem, he's going to... Sorry, Darky has to evacuate into the main. Oh my god. It's brutal. Just continuing to bounce back and forth, and Clem just can't keep up. He just cannot keep up with him. 15 SCVs go down. The tank count was almost reset. There's only one tank left, and it's going to get piled down as well. Clem trying to stim on forward, but reinforcements arrive. It's just too much. GG gets called, and Dark takes the series 2-1. He will advance on to the grand finals. GG. GG, well played, Dark. We don't really get to see that too often, but it was really interesting, right? Remember, Dark initially planned to go for a Link Queen Nidus all-in, but after seeing the opener of Clem, Dark, he shifted gears. He decided to drone instead, and he used that Nidus to just deny the third over and over again. He was just, I say over and over, for as long as he could. He was just spreading creep, laying siege upon the natural, just making Clem as uncomfortable as possible, building up towards a 1-1 roach timing behind it. And again, the 1-1 roach timing didn't really accomplish too much, right? Like, initially, it tried to push into the third base, and it didn't break in. It couldn't break in until we got that Nidus up in the main. And then Dark could start working, you know, back and forth. He could start cooking, Papi. Back and forth, bouncing between the third, bouncing between the main, pulling Clem apart. Again, that's something you just don't really see too often. That kind of dynamic. GG, very well done. And congratulations to Dark. Oh, and my condolences to Clem, as Clem does bow out. He is still going to be playing another match. Clem is going to be playing for third place. There is a third place match that's being played out by Clem and Bjorn, another TvT. That's being that's being played out at the same time as the finals. Usually the third place match isn't casted by anyone, just because it happens at the same time as the finals and everyone wants to come into the finals. But Bjorn versus Clem is happening off stream. Is occurring off stream. Meanwhile, we're getting ready for the finals. Here we go.